What's going on, guys? This is the Cool Geek, and today I have a special treat for you guys. I am interviewing for podcast number 2, Nate Sedgwick. He is an entrepreneur with a dream, but his dream is in China. He actually owns a company in China that helps many small and large and multinational e-commerce companies source their products in China. So it's going to be extremely interesting. You guys are going to find out about the Chinese and American trade war, and it is going to be awesome. Let's do this.
You are now listening to the Cool Geek podcast with your host, Louis De Luna.
How's it going? This is Louis De Luna, the Cool Geek, and I'm here with a very, very special treat. His name is Nate Sedgwick. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. And he is an entrepreneur with a crazy story. I mean, so guys, you know, my podcast is tech-centric. I want to focus on tech, but I also want to tell these up-and-coming entrepreneurs stories. I want you guys to find out. I know we can get Grant Cardone, we can maybe get, Ed Milet on here, but you guys have heard their stories millions of times. I want to hear stories such as Nate's. Who is Nate? How did he end up in China? And how did he come up with this great idea, sourcing Mojo? This is an awesome company. I've been following them on Instagram. Make sure you guys follow Nate on Instagram as well. What's your? It's at Nate Sedgwick, and I'll put his Instagram link on the video as well. You guys will be able to get it and follow him. But we're just gonna go ahead and see how he started his company, how he got into entrepreneurship, and how he ended up in China. Because I know that you're originally from the U.S., correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And how? So tell us who is Nate Sedgwick?
Sure.
So tell us.
Yeah. So originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. I grew up there. Spent my entire life there. And it wasn't until my mid-20s when I was in graduate school that I studied abroad in China. So for my undergraduate, I studied political science, then went to graduate school for international and comparative politics, and I focused on China. So that was where I had the opportunity to study abroad. So first I went to Dalian in northern China, and then Shanghai the second time.
Oh, nice.
The second time, on my way to Shanghai, I visited my aunt, and she had a lifelong friend who was a private equity investor in Shanghai, and she's like, well, you should meet him. He can show you around. You can get to know the city. And so I did that. I took him up on that offer, and we liked each other a lot. And I was about to get out of graduate school, and I said, I'd love to work for your company if there's anything I can do just to be involved with business in China. And he said, well, we're looking to invest in this company. Why don't you fly down there, see what it's all about? And that was a very big disposable food packaging manufacturer. Nice. And ultimately, our two companies started to cooperate, and I was responsible for international sales development. So I would go with the company to Dubai, London, Paris, New York, to all of these exhibitions.
Your busy schedule.
Yeah, to help do their business development. And the person from the company, the sales manager, would always go as well. And now she's my wife.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
so that's what really brought you to China, right? That's what made you stay in China.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I mean,
no, of course, yeah, but that's one of the big perks, right?
Right. So, so exactly, we built a great relationship, and then one thing led to another. And so after we got together, I left that firm and joined the family company. And so I actually started as a salesperson within the company and worked my way up to chief marketing officer, and I spent 8 years there. Wow. And so I was working. I've been working in China since that time at the factory.
Nate, let me backtrack a little bit. How is it? Because here in the U.S., we're caught up in our own bubble right now, right? We have our political climate. It's for Americans, it's a lot to take in. Like, we already have so much on our plate with our own political climate. A lot of them, believe it or not, I mean, you probably know, but a lot of Americans don't actually know jack shit about China, like what's going on in China. They have absolutely no clue what's going on in China. So tell us, let me backtrack a little bit and tell us, like, how's the climate of a foreigner working in China? Like, how is the environment? Like, what do you like? What tell us a little bit about your experiences as a foreigner working in China.
Yeah, so I've been in China for 12 years total, and it has changed a little bit since I've been there. I remember studying abroad, and I was in northern China, in the kind of more in the countryside, and you were treated as like a celebrity. I mean, you walk down the street and people just stop everything and stare at you
because they don't see many Westerners.
Exactly.
At all, right?
Yeah. I mean, they've only see them on TV, and it's just like something very unique. And they want to take pictures with you, and they're all very friendly.
Oh, nice.
So that was kind of how it was when I was a student, and then as I started to do business. It's the same thing. Americans, Westerners, you actually get quite good treatment wherever you go in China. I've never had a bad experience. But it is different. So if you're in Shanghai and you're walking down the street, people don't bat an eye. They're not even going to look at you. Like Shanghai's just,
it's an international hub.
Business hub. But if you start going to second tier, third tier cities, factory towns, like then once again, you still get that different treatment. People are looking at you
you're
like
an alien or something, right?
Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. Yeah.
So I always feel welcome, and even like with the ongoing trade war, or the tariff situation, for the most part, people recognize that's a government thing, and they don't take that angst or anger out on a particular individual.
Of course, yeah. And how is it working in a company like are most Westerners dealing with like English speaking clients? Is that why like there's a high demand also in China? I'm sure there's a lot of Westerners working in China as well, and I know there's a higher demand as China's expanding. So do they mostly get all those jobs, or do they also like how long did it take you to learn Chinese?
Well, I started in university, and then once I was there, I became very fluent. Once you're immersed, then you make a lot of progress.
You're immersed, yeah. Did you already know I want to just stay in China? Like, did you already kind of know, like, all right, I think I'm gonna be end up living in China?
I did. Eventually. I grew up in Ohio in the Midwest, and I don't come from a wealthy family at all. The opposite. So I'm truly, you'll see the started from the bottom hashtag on some of my posts.
Starting from the bottom,
it's the truth.
Yeah. These entrepreneurs I'm extremely interested in, because you guys are gonna see their rise. So it's really interesting to document it on social media, how the evolution of how you're starting from the bottom, and then you're gonna eventually be doing conventions, talking in front of 20,000 people. So eventually it's definitely gonna happen. And tell us how you came up with this idea of sourcing Mojo. Like how did you start?
Yeah. So I spent. I worked my way up to the chief marketing officer of the company and spent several years in that position. And so, my family's company, we have several factories in China. We do machine sales, but also disposable food packaging. And so it's mostly export. So we work with hundreds of clients in 50 plus countries around the world.
Wow.
And so when they would come to visit our factory, obviously I'm sitting across the conference table from them. Usually they're dealing with Chinese, but this is a unique situation.
Oh, yeah.
And what was fascinating for me was, working in a Chinese company in China at the factory, I learned how they think, how they strategize, how they're negotiating pricing, how they deal with problems, how they cheat, how they cut corners, everything. And then, of course, sitting across from these people from all these different, not only all these different countries, but different company sizes, right? You have these small importers starting out. You have these billion-dollar packaging companies. And, I can tell you, Louis, like the one thing is every company suffers with product sourcing issues, whether you're a startup, or a billion-dollar packaging company, they all suffer different issues.
Exactly.
And so when I saw that, and I after spending so many years at the company, I was ready to just go out on my own. I wanted to do my own thing, be responsible for my own fate. I saw this like massive void in the market where I have these great relationships. I wanted to create this company to help foreign companies manage their sourcing in China. And so I started my own consulting firm. And since I had some great relationships with CEOs, I went to them and I said, we want to be your outsourced sourcing office. So we have dedicated employees there that work only for them, use their corporate email accounts, and manage that for them. And then that's been very successful. We still do that. But the problem is like those contracts are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're 10 to 20 pages. They're annual agreements. And it was like 1 or 2 years ago, I had this epiphany. And it was just like, there's such a massive market out there for entrepreneurs, small businesses, but also large companies who just have no experience sourcing. I said, how do we take this like super valuable service that we provide and break it down so that it's flexible, so that everybody has access to it? And I think, one of the best examples, like parallels I can think of, is like LegalZoom. They totally just shattered the legal industry. They don't do everything an attorney can. They're not the greatest at everything. But they're $1 billion company, and they broke an old mold. And so I like to draw some parallels between that as far as like what we try to do with our outsourced sourcing services, quality assurance, and trying to have a similar transformation.
So you guys deal with not just large companies, but also small and medium-sized companies. Let's say let's say I want to start e-commerce, and I really want to connect with factories in China. You guys can help these entrepreneurs also to connect with factories in China. You guys can do all the quality control. Like, what are your main services of Sourcing Mojo? Like, where do you guys like? How do you guys help, let's say, a small business? Like, what's the process like?
Right. Well, so I'll say, to answer your first question, so our largest client is $750 million in revenue, based in North America. And our smallest client is a startup with $0 revenue. They're probably negative, negative cash flow. And that's what's been great about Mojo is we've been able to take on these entrepreneurs. The way that we've broken it down is, no matter what plan that you get into, you get all the sourcing services you need to successfully source a product. And what does that mean? We've broken it down into supplier research, product development, quality assurance, and supplier and order management. So you come to me and you say, okay, I've invented this widget and I need your help sourcing it. And so you could get into our entrepreneur plan. It starts at $497 a month, right? Great. Very affordable. Awesome. And once you sign up, within one business day, we'll contact you. We'll get a conference call going. You'll have a dedicated expert in our office that I personally trained, speaks American English, that you can communicate with every day.
Fantastic.
We'll get your product information. We go out and we'll literally do all the research. We'll find up to 50 different suppliers. Then we'll narrow it down based on your criteria. First of all, we'll get rid of the trading companies, the agents. We'll find the real manufacturers. Then we look at the pricing. If you're going to sell your product to Walmart, you need certain social audits. We filter it down. We come back to you with 3 to 5 manufacturers. We say, Louis, this is the one we recommend. But ultimately, Sourcing Mojo, you're paying us as a professional service,
of course,
and you choose who you want to work with. And so you would do that, and then we would move on to the product development phase, getting samples approved, and then so on.
Of course. And how do you, in this climate, everyone wants to sell online nowadays, right? I mean, it's a lucrative business, and especially here in Los Angeles, it's a big hub of e-commerce. There's a lot of e-commerce with Silicon Beach, in Pasadena itself. There's thousands of these entrepreneurs that want to launch their own e-commerce. Nowadays, I think the new American dream is not just nowadays, like, a lot of people can own property. Like nowadays, like, the new American dream and the new American, I think the new gold rush is to actually try to make money online, because a lot of people, like, they want to buy time, right? And they want to buy a little bit more freedom. And here in Los Angeles, many families and small entrepreneurs are kind of, Los Angeles is a very expensive city, and prices are going up. Wages are not going up as fast. That's a big problem here in the U.S., especially in Los Angeles. So a lot of people want these side hustles, right? They want to get into side hustles. A big side hustle is e-commerce or Amazon and all that stuff. How do you guys compete with me just trying to reach out to these manufacturers straight from Alibaba or AliExpress?
Sure. So Louis, you might be surprised, but the way I look at Alibaba or AliExpress is they're our best lead generator.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sure. Because I encourage anyone to go out there, hop on Alibaba. I mean, first of all, Alibaba, they promote the companies that pay them money. There's a ton of trading companies, agents. When I was working at our factory, and you get leads from Alibaba, we treated them as the lowest priority, because usually small companies, we give them the highest pricing. Very, most of the time we don't even reply. So, Alibaba is like looking in the yellow pages and trying to make sense of it. Like, which company should I work with? Right? Search paper cup, you'll find 1,000 companies.
Of course,
Then what? Go with price. All right, get paper cups that leak, right? And the same with AliExpress. Like, if you're on AliExpress, I mean, you can find the product, but guess what? there's 1,000 other people that are in Amazon FBA trying to supply the same product. You think they aren't on AliExpress?
True,
So the key is like
true.
you have to get directly to that factory, and how are you going to do that? So it's a great lead generator because we work with a lot of Amazon people, and then they come to us because they're just like, I'm so sick and tired of dealing with this, and they still have to focus on sales and marketing, all these other things, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, if you're really gonna go all in, you need boots on the ground in China, or you need someone at least representing you in China, because these factories, and I've heard, I've gone to a lot of shows. One of my buddies owns a pretty good and large e-commerce store that sells for women, like it sells women's products. Like they actually do clothing, and they do all that stuff. And we went to Magic. I know I don't think they have Magic anymore in Las Vegas, right? But that show, the fashion show, where you can also, there were two sections. There was one section where you can actually meet the manufacturers on that side. A lot of these manufacturers, like I actually went to the other side because I had a pass to go into the manufacturer side, where these manufacturers are taking large orders, and this is where big companies such as like Billabong or Vans come, and they try to source new like factories that can produce their things. But one big thing that I noticed is that some of these factories, they wanted to get my business, and they said, actually, we have some designs from a very top designer, and we can just change it up a little bit, and like we can kind of, I guess we can repurpose their design for yours. So you guys are the people that kind of keep this under control, right? Like, because I know intellectual property is also a big thing in China. Like, that's the reason why it's stopping a lot of companies from doing business also in China. So companies such as yours, sourcing Mojo, do you guys also look out for that? Like, do you guys also help companies protect that intellectual property, or how does that work?
So we're not a legal firm. We don't offer legal advice, but based on my experience, so whether you're manufacturing in China or not, if people in China figure out that you have an idea that's going to make money, they're going to copy it. And there's nothing. And based on my experience, this is my own personal experience. It's not a recommendation. But the only way to really protect your intellectual property is to get a patent, whether it's a design patent. Obviously, utility patent's better, because what you get with that is protection in Western markets, right? So whatever they do in China, I mean, unless your dream is to sell to 1 billion Chinese people, of course that would be great. But that, I think you're better off starting in North America or Europe, right?
I think so, yeah.
But once you have that patent protection, if someone tries to copy you and bring it to the market, you can sue them and get damages. Right? If you just sign a non-disclosure agreement or something like that, I mean, to actually enforce that in China or anywhere else, I mean, you're not going to get any. How many so that makes sense to like Apple or GE, P&G, right? But for most of the companies we deal with, even like $10 or $20 million companies, you're not going to want to sink legal costs. You're just going to write off like that's a loss. So my recommendation is, if it's proprietary, do everything to get a patent. Apply for the patent before you do it. If you can't, then you're dealing with a commodity, and you really can't do too much.
You can't do too much. That's and I know some entrepreneurs are always asking like, well, my intellectual property and this and that, but I mean. There is another trend that I see. A lot of Chinese companies, like, I just want your opinion. Like, a lot of these Chinese companies, I've noticed, because we actually work with a few that are manufacturing, but they want to launch their brands in here in the U.S. They want to sell like straight to the U.S. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what is your experience with that?
Well, I don't know, because we're focused on sourcing from China, but I would say definitely. I mean, a lot of Chinese companies, they want to come direct to market, right? That's a natural progression. Right. I'm sure Huawei started out as a supplier to Cisco and other companies, and now they're the main competitors. Right. So that's a natural progression. There's not much you can do, and I think on Amazon too, there's probably a lot of Chinese that are big into that.
And Amazon, I know it's and you said you guys have a lot of clients, and you guys actually supply stores. Like, what kind of advice would you give to, let's say, an entrepreneur that wants to use your services, or wants to maybe look for a product to sell in China, or maybe get from China to sell to the U.S. market or on Amazon? What kind of advice would you give?
So I think once you have a product in mind, what are you going to do? You have to get your price research and your supplier research, right? And if you're really only getting on Alibaba or AliExpress, you're seeing the same pricing that everyone else in the market's seeing, right? So even if somehow you discovered a product that's like, oh, I can make money on this. Well, how long until someone else is on Jungle Scout or something else and they figured it out?
Exactly.
And so that's not really a viable strategy. So what we do and what is the difference is when you hire us, we're using a variety of methods. We have people on the ground speaking Chinese, calling the factories, like using not only online directories but other methods.
Oh yeah.
And finding every potential manufacturer, and then that's really where you make a big difference, right? Where you find you're really going to find that big cost advantage.
Oh yeah.
Or we work on a lot of custom products, and they need certain materials, and a lot of this is very hard to find. You're not gonna get on Alibaba and say, I don't know. I mean, all I know is from my experience, this is a very labor-intensive process, and to just say, "Oh, now everything's automated, and I'm just going to type it in, and magically I'm going to have this profitable FBA business." I mean, you're living in a dream world.
Oh,
right?
you're living in a fantasy, pretty much. Yeah. And you guys also source. Is that accurate? You guys also source raw products as well, like let's say just the raw textiles and all that. Do you guys?
Sure.
Also
I mean, we source basically everything across all industries. I mean, we don't get into very complicated things like iPhones or nuclear reactors.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Missile launchers.
But I mean, let's say 90% of everything else. I mean, we do everything from personal care to toys to electronics. I mean,
awesome.
Also
all sorts of different industries and verticals. That's great. And you've grown your staff, right? Like now you have like 15 employees. Is that accurate?
16 as of today. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So and based on our growth, I think we'll be over 20 by the end of this year, maybe 25, depending on how quickly. We have to do it sustainably.
Of course.
Right now, as I've told you, I think we're growing kind of like at max capacity, and we keep adding resources. Where you'll see on my Instagram, we're actually building we're breaking down the wall between our office and the one next door. We're going to double the size of our office.
Congrats.
So, and that's based on having 25 or 30 people next year within our company.
You guys are projecting already that there's going to be.
Correct. Yeah, based on our growth.
And what do you what advice can you give to like entrepreneurs that are that all of a sudden find themselves like, oh, well, I need to expand. Like, what is your strategy on and expanding your team? Like, how do you find that perfect person to work? Because hiring someone is a big deal. I mean, they're they may help you they may break you, they may help you. I mean, they may hinder you. Like, so give us a little bit of advice on how you, like, what's your
the key thing that I keep in mind is brand integrity, right? Sourcing Mojo's experience with the client. So if we grow to a point where we're adding staff but the quality is poor, or we're not able to have we're really known for being extremely sincere in our work and getting the results you want and being super responsive. If we lose those things, then the people are going to cancel their plans. They're going to have a different impression of our company. And so whether it's my company or your company, the key is to be sustainable as you expand and to always, what is that client experience or that with a product or with your service, right?
Exactly.
Once you lose that, you've compromised your own values. And then what's the point?
What's the point?
You're starting to burn off your own growth, right?
Exactly, yeah. And I know you in your in your office you put a quote, and let me go confidently in the direction of your dreams, live the life you have imagined. Yeah. And what is that? What does that quote mean to you? Because I know it's important because you put it for all your employees to see. Is that kind of like what you kind of abide by? Is that your?
Yeah. I think that's I think it's like a shortened quote from Henry David Thoreau, but to me, it's a quote that I look to for my entire life. From where I won't get into my life story, but let's just say I came from meager beginnings, and along the road I could have always just stopped and been well enough or like good enough. And it's really about what do you want in your life? What is the vision? And then just going out and pursuing it and not settling. Like, you just can't settle. Of course you're gonna. I mean, I still every year I'm hitting different roadblocks, different obstacles, but to just never give up and live the life you've imagined. If you're just saying, well, I don't want to quit my 9-to-5 job because I've got my 401k and I feel I don't want to man, I'm telling you, like, you're gonna be at the end of your life and you still haven't lived. I mean,
you haven't lived, yeah.
And if you think you're living, you just don't know yet.
No, that's true.
You gotta break out. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody should be an entrepreneur. I mean,
I know.
Of course, as entrepreneur, we need workers, right? I need staff,
exactly.
But they don't have to be my staff for life.
Of
you know,
course,
they can work for me for 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they'll learn a lot from me and the way we do things. Yeah,
and also, people, talented people, and I think this is a good advice for all you entrepreneurs that are listening. I think talented people don't want a boss. They want a leader, someone to guide them. They also want they want a mentor as well, right? Now, every leader needs his or her generals, right? Now, there are no golden handcuffs, guys. Like, golden handcuffs are a big fat lie. They're a huge lie. Let me tell you why. Because if and I don't know if you know about golden handcuffs or if you've heard of that, but there's some people that preach about golden handcuffs, but that is a complete fat lie, because eventually talented people are gonna, they're eventually gonna see everything. They're gonna be like, well, I have what it takes to start my own thing, right? So the thing is, you gotta be a leader to these people. You gotta develop these relationships where they're gonna be like, well, Nate is not really my boss. He's more like my mentor. I believe in his vision. Instead of me trying to create, one from scratch, like, I'm just gonna help him build his vision, and that's gonna help me build my vision. Like, I think eventually, they talked about this in Joe Rogan, where I think it was, I forget his name, I forget the speaker, but he said eventually in a few years, I think he thinks the internet is changing a lot of things, and eventually everyone will eventually become some sort of entrepreneur, because back then, the hunter-gatherer days, I'm kind of getting into a little bit of different things, but back in hunter-gatherer days, everyone used to kind of hunt and gather on their own. Like, maybe some were very small circles, but most of everyone was sustaining their own lives, right? So eventually he thinks that the internet is allowing us, like, now there's a lot of entrepreneurs, there's new things that have never been, in the history since the Industrial Revolution, have they've never existed, such as like these laptop entrepreneurs that are traveling, and they're what is an entrepreneur is being redefined a little bit. So we're going through some changes. I would say maybe like an awakening, or some sort of a revolution of these startups, right? Like, now it's kind of cool to be an entrepreneur, and it's so.
I think people are questioning everything, and I think maybe one of the words that I think of when you're describing that is decentralization.
Exactly.
Right? Not everyone's going to be working in these skyscrapers on multi floors, and
of course,
even within my company, right? I don't hire someone to do the advertising for us. I go out and find another entrepreneur who's an expert at Google advertising.
Exactly.
And guess what? He does a phenomenal job, and then it's done. And then I go and find another entrepreneur that help me, like, with whatever social media, or and so just contracting everything out.
Exactly.
Right. So I think that there's a lot to say that.
And I know your company is you got a formula, right? And I've been looking at your Instagram, and I see that you're very, like, you hold your employees to like a very high standard as far as customer service. I know customer service is a big thing, and I know you have like some sort of pledge, right? Like you make them. I saw that.
Yeah, I was
Tell us
kinda,
a little bit about that.
Just being silly, but I mean, so
but that's cool. Like, that's
Sure.
That's part of your culture,
right?
The culture that you're developing for your company. So tell us like a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I know the post you're referencing, it was something like, we don't satisfy our clients, we blow their minds.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I forget where, and maybe there's multiple people along the way, but the truth is, no matter what industry you get in, if you provide the best service, you're going to be successful.
Oh yeah.
Like, people want close relationships, intimate relationships, and incredible service. And so that's what we focus on. And what I always describe to all of our potential clients is this is what our clients always tell us. Like, the reason I love working with you is you're super responsive. I send you an email, a message, you get back to me right away, and you're extremely sincere. It's not just like, this is a transaction and we're gonna do that. Okay, you got what you want.
Exactly.
No, like, this is a a lifelong relationship. One of the things I always talk about when potential clients call, Louis, is and I deal with a lot of them personally on the phone, and I say, why is the CEO and the founder and CEO talking to you right now? Because even if you're an Amazon FBA entrepreneur, you got one widget, you want to start your business, right? It's a dream. It's $500 a month.
Oh yeah.
First of all, if you sign up for 1 or 2 months and leave, we've lost money. The bell curve for labor, for doing the supplier research, prototype development, I mean, that takes a long time.
It takes a while.
But what I do is I'm looking at the relationship over the next 10 years or a lifetime, because if we provide phenomenal service, we help you be successful. Even if you have to take a break, you ship the goods, you have to sell them, but you're going to come back to us. And I tell you what happens a lot with Amazon people is we help them with one project and it's finished and like, oh, I've got another idea. And so what happens, what you would think, well, like, people are going to sign up for 1 month and quit, but actually they tend to be long relationships. And our goal is, as we help them become successful, increase their sales, that they're going to need more of our services, and eventually we're just going to be their outsourced sourcing office. They could hire a procurement manager here, but why? Right? Why? They're not an expert on Asian culture. They still have got the time and language difference. And like, we do such a phenomenal job. We got local people on the ground talking to the factory, and like, you love working with them. So on that business model, don't tell anyone. That's how we win. There's other companies out there. They're like, they talk about tech and things, but it all comes back, no matter how much tech you have. When you have that one-on-one service,
of course, nothing
it
beats
always wins.
Oh yeah,
no one wants to just get on their app and say like, okay, your order's in production. Well, what the hell does that even mean? Or like,
I want someone on the phone like giving me like, your order's in production, giving me a little bit more details, and just like, okay, just a simple notification.
Exactly.
I completely understand, man. And tell us a crazy story about, like dealing with factories in China. Like, what do you like something funny?
Oh man.
Like, I got a million.
I don't know. It's. I mean, funny is hard.
Well, they're not funny, but like maybe a night. Like I know you've gone some. I know you've gotten some entrepreneurs that, like, I just can't deal with, I don't know how to deal with factories. Like, I got my orders all mixed up. Like, tell us like a nightmare story. And that's the thing. Like, there's not a lot of funny stories. There's a lot of stressful stories. And that's that's why like we're so in demand. And that's why if people that work with Alibaba or AliExpress, it's a great lead generator, because they're so stressed out and they're just tired of it, right? I mean, one of them would be, we have a client in the UK, still a client, but at the time, they had been ordering from this factory for many years. It was in the packaging business, and they started to get a complaint from one of their $1 million customers that orders millions of dollars per year. And what was happening is the package was just failing. Right, like you put spaghetti or something in it, and it would just fall onto their legs or something. It was a big like legal risk. That's a big problem.
So long story short, they had to recall all this product. They lost the relationship. They still haven't got it back. This was 5 years ago. They lost that business.
Wow. This is the biggest client of theirs, right? This was the biggest client of theirs.
Well, it was one of them. It was one of the big food service operators.
But I mean, losing a huge client is a big. It's a huge blow to a company. Huge. Absolutely. It's detrimental, because a lot of employees that are just working 9 to 5, I'll just collect my check and I don't care, but as an entrepreneur, it's like a different level. Well, if these guys, if I don't get paid, how am I going to pay my employees, right? Like, those are stresses that a lot of entrepreneurs deal with. So it's very detrimental if you lose a huge client. That's extremely. So, and Nate, tell us a little bit about like the climate with, like right here, the political climate is a little weird, especially with a lot of, like all these high tariffs and all that. Like, what are entrepreneurs doing right now, especially ones that are sourcing a lot of products and getting a lot of products from China? Is that really hurting a lot of companies right now, or how's?
So I think the Chinese economy is under tremendous pressure. Even starting at the beginning of the trade war, before I personally have a lot of relationships with many companies. They move their factories out of China to other companies like Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, and then with the second set of tariffs that happened this year, I mean, now they're all gone.
I know,
and so the only reason that you would remain in China is that maybe due to the infrastructure, you can't make it in another country.
Of course.
It's just a product that's made there and not many other places. So the climate for doing business is still good. Like, it's open for business. Of course. But The Americans, they're trying to make anything that's being taxed at 25% or more elsewhere. Yeah. So I think it's a very tough spot for the Chinese. I don't know how the governments. Yeah. They're not. They've got their poker face on, but I see the pressure. Yeah. I have I'm personally a shareholder in Chinese companies, and I have many relationships with factory bosses. Wow. And I know even a local one I talked to last month. He has a textile business making high fashion clothes for brands like Gap and things like that. And actually better than that. Wow. And they moved it all to Vietnam. Wow. You need to lower your prices 15%. He's like, I can't. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I'm not gonna make any money. And so that's what happens. So it's right now we're in it's kind of a weird climate, right? Mm-hmm. And do the Chinese follow American politics very closely? So talking about bubbles, that's one giant bubble. Because the internet, the media is all government controlled. Oh, so some people can access it through a VPN, or people studying abroad. But for the most part, anyone living there is just following the Chinese media, and so you're just listening to the narrative that's provided by the government. So they're not really following American media, and maybe the reasons that the Trump administration, our government's giving for the trade war, intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer. Exactly. Some of these things I've talked with my Chinese friends about, and they're totally unaware because what they hear reported over there is just kind of well, the Americans want too much, and we're not going to concede our economic sovereignty. Well, what does that even mean? Yeah, and I was, right now the U.S. is also in a funny situation because I know you guys are rolling 5G in 2020, right? So that's gonna be crazy. How's that gonna change business? Tell me a little bit about that. Do you see it? I just saw Patrick Bet-David's latest podcast, and he was talking about 5G, but it's quite a big deal. So tell us a little bit how's that going to change business in China? Is that going to what kind of changes are you guys going to see? When it comes to 5G, that's not my area of expertise. I listen to the same podcast as you, so it's very informative. But some of those things are over my head. Even the reasons that he gave as far as why are we kind of positioning this way, I think it does make sense if it's true. Yeah. And I'm not sure if that's the only reason or there's other reasons as well. But when it comes to 5G, I think the issue is that Huawei now is a global leader. Exactly. And especially because they have the manufacturing base in China. Yeah. They're super competitive. Oh, yeah. Super competitive. And the issue really is not only them becoming the leader and getting the economic benefits, but also ostensibly, like the administration says, potentially they could spy and
of course, yeah.
Every government does it, so I would assume yes. Yeah. And then it's a question of, do you want the U.S. to spy on you or China to spy on you?
Let me think. Yeah. I don't know. But that's a very interesting topic, one that I probably will talk about later in the future. And I know Huawei is also right now in the news, especially in the American news media, we're starting to there's all these cycles, right? We start hearing about North Korea and then it dies down, and then we start hearing about somewhere in the Middle East or Iran, and then it kind of dies down. We have all these cycles, and right now I feel like the 5G thing, it's like a scare. I feel like a lot of this news media is trying to kind of scare the Americans into China's getting 5G next year, and we're not going to get there till 2025. They're going to beat us, So it's a big scare. But I know right now there's some negotiations going on, and I know China also has their poker face, like you said, on, right. And they're kind of we want all the tariffs off, if we were to share our technology with you guys. So and I know Huawei is also putting in so much into research and development. I heard almost as much as close to as much, believe it or not. I think they're a third.
They're more than Apple, right? As far as research and development.
Yeah, no, they're maybe they're almost there, but they're putting in so much in research and development. It's crazy. Literally, they're not even. I don't think. They're probably profiting a lot because they're very large, but I mean, they're literally doubling their sales every year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like a superstar. And I started following Huawei a lot now. I mean, they're just an incredible company. It's worth maybe I'll have that on my podcast later on. But yeah, and Nate, what other advice can you give to any e-commerce entrepreneurs, or any other advice? Like, just give me your genuine advice. Like, what would you say, like, to deal with these Chinese companies? Like, what other advice do you got?
My best advice is to use Sourcing Mojo.
Of course, right?
No, and let me say why. I mean,
good marketing.
I think, obviously as an entrepreneur, you're starting to get into e-commerce. Of course, you're going to get into Google. You're going to read a lot of articles.
Oh yeah.
And you should do that. Get some base knowledge, some understanding. But just know that that's not comprehensive, and nothing replaces experience. And what you're going to figure out is that international product sourcing, not just in China, but anywhere in Asia and probably worldwide. I mean, Europe is probably easier, but it's just an extremely complicated process when you take into account like supplier research, like finding the best, most competitive suppliers with great payment terms, nailing down like every specification of your product, the quality assurance aspect, making sure you get consistent quality all the time. I mean, it's just not. It's very tough. So, I guess my advice would be walk in with your eyes wide open. As we've talked about, the trend now is FBA and start your own e-commerce and do this and that. And like, if you're gonna be like, it's not gonna be so easy. Like, go in with full force and passion, sure, but also just have your eyes wide open and don't be naive. Don't say, "Oh, I found a company, Alibaba. Hey, this girl Christine Chen is like, she seems great, and let me wire $10,000 and."
And then you don't hear from them again.
Oh, you know what? We talked about Ed Milet. So Ed Milet had a show with Chris and Heidi Powell.
Oh yeah, you're a big Ed Milet fan.
Celebrity fitness people. And if you go into like 5 minutes into that podcast on YouTube, he talks about, this was when he was up and coming in the early 2000s. He was like doing well. He was a celebrity. He invested about $200,000 in this fitness product, like for meals. He just was like, I found this company. I sent them $200,000. I was there at San Pedro Port. It came in, and it was all trash. And he went bankrupt.
Wow.
And then he had health problems, and he got addicted to opiates, and like it was all downhill from there.
Shit.
But that was like the start of it.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, even like a guy like that, like you don't do something so naive.
The point is, guys, if sourcing the wrong product can ruin you. Pretty much. That's so cool, man. And I know you're a big Ed Milet fan. I know he has that. How do you pronounce it? The Arete?
Arete.
What is that about? Tell me.
So it's about pursuing excellence in every aspect of your life. Whether it's business, your family, your lifestyle, your health, literally everything, and to be the best possible citizen of the world. It's about having a good heart, right? Being just a good person. We've joined, and it's led by Andy Frisilla and Ed Milet, but the group of people that they bring together are all like-minded, they're similar, like hardcore entrepreneurs. Some of them are building businesses, some of them are super successful, and you're a group, and like I've met with so many of them, and I haven't met a bad one yet. I'm sure there's a few bad apples or not so great, but just incredible people and so helpful, and it just personally, as an entrepreneur in China, and as an entrepreneur, there's so many ups and downs. One day you're like, I'm going to change the world. The next you're like, what the hell am I doing? And for me, like by myself, I just felt so alone. And so the reason I joined was for that tribe. I was like, if there's a tribe of entrepreneurs, this is like the most badass tribe. And Ed and Andy, like getting their content, that's a bonus. So
exactly. And I know Ed is a beast. I mean, I saw him talk, and this guy is just so inspirational. I mean, and I'm currently reading his book, Max Out. So this is it's a very quick read, and I highly recommend it for you guys. Max Out Your Life. But yeah, he's definitely a beast. So have you met Ed?
No. So the Arete Syndicate, we have a summit next month. Actually, this month, August, in Idaho at his house.
Wow, that's cool.
Exclusive event, but I'm excited to meet him and Andy and all the other Arete guys.
Cool. So, anyways, I mean, we're getting close to the end of our podcast, and Nate, are there any other anything else? Any last last comments that you want to make, or anything else? Like, I know we're gonna give people your links so they can check out all these tech entrepreneurs that want to start their e-commerce and their Amazon businesses. If you guys want some help with sourcing, we got Sourcing Mojo. This company is revolutionizing the sourcing and the Chinese partnerships game, pretty much. Yeah. So are there any other last comments that you wanna give to?
No, I mean two comments. One is I started my consulting firm. I worked for large corporations for a long time.
Yeah,
it's great, right? But I truly love what I'm doing, because with Sourcing Mojo, you deal with entrepreneurs from every beginning and all types and shapes, and you're working in all these different industries, and the passion.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you just got one product in your entrepreneur plan, or this is a big product. It means a lot to all of us. You're trusting us with your dream, and we don't take that lightly. It's not a transaction. We want to build a relationship together. I really enjoy what I'm doing. I'm passionate about it. Our team's passionate about it. So if you're looking for that type of relationship and not just some transaction,
of course.
That way, and of course, I understand everyone's in their different phases of their business. I mean, if you just want to reach out to me on Instagram or wherever, and just strike up a conversation, you got some questions, hit me up. It's totally cool.
What's another thing I wanted to ask you before we leave is, where do you see the partnership between China and the U.S., let's say, as far as sourcing, or as far as manufacturing your products over there? Where do you see this? What are your projections for the next few years? I know a lot of people are saying well, we don't know if Trump is going to get elected, but there's much speculation that he will get reelected. So what is the where do you think this is going to go? Where tell us a little bit about that.
So I think it's tough. It depends where the trade war goes, you're dealing with two parties that don't want to compromise. So how long it goes on, I don't know. And the other thing that complicates it, though, Louis, is not just that it's a trade war, but there's a lot of geopolitical issues going on. They recently
so many things,
they recently militarized the South China Sea, taking over a lot of islands.
That's a
now
huge problem right
Russia
now,
and China work together a lot. They're pressuring South Korea and Japan. So there's just and then within the context of China's almost, their economy is not nearly as diverse and strong as ours, but as far as raw numbers, it's getting closer and closer.
It's getting closer, yeah. It's itching closer.
There's it's just such a complex situation that who knows, but I would hope that it will be resolved in time. This is the future, right? It's a globalized economy.
Exactly.
Maybe in the short term there will be more in other Asian countries. It's nice. I was in Vietnam in July. Their economy's buzzing around 8%. It's growing out.
I heard they're also a manufacturing hub now. Vietnam is becoming pretty big. Are you guys also looking to expand to maybe Vietnam?
So we already do manufacturing in Vietnam for many clients.
Awesome.
We're considering to open an office there. We actually have staff in our office that's fluent in Vietnamese.
Oh, nice.
They speak Chinese, Vietnamese, and English. So it's nice.
Cool.
So we'll see how that goes.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Well, I plan on going to China. We're going to be going to China soon, hopefully. Would love to go to your office.
Absolutely.
Over there and take a little tour and maybe do another part 2.
You're welcome to come.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So anyways, So any last comments that you have? Anything else?
No, but as I know, you reach a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that have just kind of started in that lane or thinking about it. And I would just say, go for it. Maybe there's some short-term pain. Maybe you are broke for 2 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
But trust me, it's like going from a black and white life to a colorful life, right?
Exactly.
Because you have total freedom. You have freedom to fail and fall on your face, and you have freedom to just have unimaginable success.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you can just
do
whatever you want, right? Exactly. Whatever business or wherever you want to go. So just break out of the mold. Whatever you're taught growing up in school, university. It's just.
Yeah, I know.
Break out.
They don't teach that at school, and I'm a big believer now. I see the light, Anyways, well, This is the Cool Geek, and here with Nate Sedgwick. Thank you guys for listening, and this is the Cool Geek, and we are out.